Helo a croeso I podlediad Tadau'r Trymder gyda fi, Dadi Huw. Welcome by the Fathers the Metal podcast. I'm Mae Dadi Huw. Welcome to the Fathers of Metal podcast with myself, Dadi Huw. And today we've got a very different type of guest to the usual theme of metal musicians, which we normally get on this channel. However, he's very experienced where it comes to fatherhood and mental health. And so it gives a huge pleasure to me, or a grŵp plezier, to introduce one of South Africa's greatest exports after Shenny Blanc and Cheslin Colby. So a big METALIDADS welcome to comedian Barry Hilton. How's it, Barry?
I'm fine, and you? I'm really cool. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, it's no problem at all. It really is a pleasure to have you here. Thanks so much for speaking to us today. So you are speaking to me from your home, is it in Hermanus?
Hermanus, yes.
Fantastic.
The safest town in South Africa, by the way.
It is, isn't it? I've been a few times. I've got a couple of bottles of wine here. I was going to show you over the camera. I've got a bottle of Calfoot Macy from Hermanus Pietersfontein Vineyards. And I've got a Chardonnay from Bouchard and Finlayson, which is just up the road. So I'm quite familiar with that part of, I'm quite familiar with that part of the world. One of my favorite restaurants in South Africa, just because of the location, is Burgundy's. And I'm hopefully it's still there.
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. So hopefully in a couple of years' time when I return, I'll be able to have lovely seafood pasta, seeing the Southern Right Wales breach from the background. So yeah, you're in a lovely part of the world. I'm in Barry, funnily enough. What a coincidence. Barry Bados, as it's known as, in South Wales. So tell me what you're up to this week, Barry. You've got a rare week off, I understand.
Yeah, I'm writing some material. I've got a platform that I've created called Talk Funny, where I show people, normal people like yourself, how to come up with 3-second one-liners that helps you in your introductions and things like that. The course is not to become a comedian, it's just to help you find humor in any platform, you know. I'm doing a lot of dad stuff. My wife is coaching me here. I don't know if you know the feeling. I'm doing a lot of dad stuff and all that. I do. When I'm at home, I've got a lot Lamaki, you know, young Jack. He's 12 now, and he's just an absolute pleasure. He's brilliant, my boy, brilliant. He doesn't give us any crap. He's a sportsman. He just piles in. And the funny thing, what happened in COVID, it allowed us to change the whole way we looked at life. And you realize, you know, I was out there doing stupid stuff, 2,000 people regularly, big corporates, big this, big that, but I wasn't at home. So COVID taught us to, do you tighten your belt? You just be more focused when you're doing stuff. And I've spent all my time now with Jack. So we have a brilliant, so it's Sandy, myself, and Jack. We have the greatest time ever. I've got more time for my other kids. It's just brilliant. And so COVID has done me sort of wonders. In fact, I'm coming to the UK now for the first time. I'm going away from my family for the first time in 2 years. So, yeah. I mean, I go away I go to Joburg for a day or whatever, but now it's like a 6 weeks tour I'm doing. So
6 weeks, wow. So I think you and me are in the same boat, actually, because I one of the benefits, if you can call that, from COVID, or the silver linings, is my daughter was almost 2 years old when COVID started, and she was reasonably developed in regards to communication skills and stuff. And yeah, I was able to spend all this time with her because I was able to work from home with a very flexible employer. I was able to spend all this time going for walks with her, reading books, just trying to get her, holding a pen, holding a pencil, just little things like that. It's been amazing. And again, with yourself and Jack, you've just been able to bond more because you've been home more, and that's been great.
And I've always been close to my other kids, but I got even closer. We talk basically every day, even though they, one's in Joburg, one's in London, one's in Edinburgh. So yeah, they're all lekker.
That is lekker, absolutely. Hey, thanks for that. Again, it's lovely to hear that we've actually both had a very similar similar path in that regard. So Barry,
Yeah.
of course, you've been involved in comedy since, from what I read on Wikipedia, it's around since 1983. One of your
Yes,
first
was my
gigs.
first pro gig.
So was it the Holiday Inn in Bercha or Port Elizabeth?
Yeah, Port Elizabeth. That was actually my second gig, but it was my first real gig. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd been trying to get on stage for 3 years, asking clubs and that when they were having the bands play, and I used to say to them, when the band has a 15-minute break, can I please go on stage?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let me. They just said no. And one day I went to this gig. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and they had a comic there who had a little bit too much vino calypso, right? And though back in those days, it was people who used to tell jokes, just jokes, you know. And he told this joke, and he cocked it up completely. And I actually said to him, "Hey, that's wrong, man." And he said to me, "Well, if you're so sharp, why don't you do it?" My God, I got up on the stage, I stood on my table, and I gave it for 10 minutes. Then the owner of this restaurant club venue, it was, came to me and said to me, "Wow, so you are funny." And I said, "I've been telling you that for 3 years." So he gave me a job on the next Wednesday night it was, and I did 15 minutes, tore the place apart, and he gave me 20 rands.
Wow.
That was in 1980.
That could buy you a bottle of Black Label nowadays, I think so.
Maybe 20 rands I could take. 20 rands you could buy 2 steaks, yeah, and beers for 20 back in the day. So anyway, so the next year I managed to get somebody, one of the established comedians in South Africa, to help me. A guy called Johnny Noble, and he did, and he just helped me, and he got me into the Holiday Inn. So I smashed it. But the funny thing was, I don't know, I'd actually do a story about it. I had to pretend I was a Scouser.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't take on South African comedians unless there was you were established. There was 4 or 5 established comedians in South Africa, and if you weren't one of them, you had no chance. So we made up a ruse that I just got off the plane from Liverpool, and I spoke like that, and I said, "Listen here, what? I'm gonna go. I want to do some work in here." So they gave me a job based on the fact that I was a Scouser. So there we go.
That's amazing.
Started from there.
So I'll have a Kentucky Fried Chicken and a can of Coke.
And a can of Coke, over.
That's
I
a really
could made
story.
a curry. Yeah.
That's really, I will get into the reason why you probably got a better Scouse accent than any other UK accent shortly, but I want to build up to that. So you've, of course, done a lot of writing, TV shows, you've done big and small tours. You've obviously were involved in a heavily TV advert for many years as well. So this year, so what's 2022 looking like for you? So again, you've got a 6-week tour of the UK coming up, is that correct?
Yes. The gigs have started to come in the last 2 months. And it's like, almost like it never ended. People phone up and say to Sandy, "Barry available?" "Yes, that's his price. Take it or leave it." You know, that type of vibe. And I'm still there at the top end, you know, or close enough. But I'm not so much phased anymore. Like every time I would come to the UK, I would desperately try to get noticed. But now I don't care, because COVID changes your whole life, my friend. So I'm huge in South Africa, and please don't think any of the guys listening out there, don't think I'm arrogant. But I am.
You are, and that's why I'm happy to speak to you today.
When I go to, it's the funniest thing. We get a lot of people at traffic lights that are sort of begging for money. And basically 90% of them, they'll go, "My cousin." When I go fill my car, the petrol pump attendants say to me, "My cousin." When I'm going shopping, people there. So I'm very blessed. And, you know, before COVID, I was sort of blind to that, because it was just like, but then you realize how important it is that I can make people happy, which was a bit of a weird way, because I was very unhappy. So So you've been there, you know.
Well, that sort of brings me nicely onto my next question, really. So I just want to remind everyone the nature, really, of how you and I sort of set up this interview. So I've, as I told you just before we started, I lived for about a year in South Africa, and I traveled around with my guitar. So that's why I've come across yourself before. So I'm on your Facebook page, and just one day I noticed that you put up a particular picture or graphic, and you started talking about something called the nut house, and how years ago the nut house would be the correct term for it. And then you started elaborating a bit more on depression, and that sort of spoke to me, because it's something I was diagnosed with 2 years ago. It's potentially something I've had my entire life, not really aware if that's the case or the truth or not. So I've become a bit more sort of aware of it myself and accepting of it. So Barry, really, in as vague or as detail as you want, how far back does your story begin?
When I was 8, I was funny. I was funny to my friends and things like that. And every time I did something funny, my parents, obviously they were trying to help me, said to me, "Shut up. You're not funny. You're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. You do this. You're just lazy. You this, you that. And it sort of, you know, it multiplies, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. I remember there's a story when I was in Wales. We stayed in Colwyn Bay. And this guy, I won't tell you who he is, but this guy was like he was like the boy in the junior school. He was the boy, you know what I'm saying? Could play soccer, could do everything. And he befriended me, and only I realized now, the only why he befriended me was because I made him look good because I was funny, and he was there. Do you know what I'm saying? So he took me to swimming. He used to swim, and I couldn't swim. So I got in the pool and I started swimming. And 6 months later, I was the guy. And he couldn't beat me anymore, this guy, and I used to destroy him. And one day, my parents never came to see me race. I did 13 races in one night once, and I won 13 medals. It's 8 golds, 3 silvers, 2 bronze. That's what it was.
Amazing you could remember that.
Well, it was a very special night for me. And I went to this guy's mother, and I said, "Mr. So-and-so, did you know I won 13 medals today?" And she said to me, "You're such a big-headed little shit." I was distraught, because my parents weren't there. They were friends with me before, because he actually came to me and he said to me, "Please let me win tonight." And I said, "No, this is what it's about. It's a race." So his mother took it out on me, because he got none of the medals, or he got the silvers or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So that was the start of it, I believe. And then all the time, every time I did something in school, I was told to shut up. You're just a flippin' nuisance. You're making a noise. You don't know what you're talking about. Just be quiet. And then it carried on. We moved to South Africa, and the same thing happened, you know. And there's a double story there. I say I never got bullied in school, but I wouldn't say I was fibbing. I was fibbing myself, because I did get bullied, but I learned how to handle the bullies, you know, and that's when I realized that humor was the tool to be cool. But still, and then all through my life, you're just not good enough. Shut up, because I got ADHD. And I remember watching the TV in the UK, and when we had the TV here, we had this thing called Built-In on Pot Roast, and they would ask these comedians, "Tell me a joke about X on television," you know. And I used to beat the guys. I used to beat them. And I was sort of married at the time. I got married because my father insisted I couldn't live with her, because you'll bring this house into shame and all that bullshit, you know. So I was there. She was Scotch, a lovely girl, really lovely person called Janice. And her parents were brilliant. So we had television, and this program would come on, and I would sit in the lounge. And as the commentator said, "Tell me a joke about," bang, I would tell a joke, okay? And they kept on saying to me, well, that's okay, but it's not funny. It's okay. But I was quicker than the other guys, you know? And then they said to me, which was a really sad thing for me, look, Baz, you know, you're okay. You're a little bit funny, but you will never be as good as Billy Connolly. So just don't even bother. Remain an electrician. Just do this shit for the rest of your life. And that was a tipping point for me. I thought, no, I can't do this shit anymore. I was 23, and I thought, have I got to do this crap for another 42 years? No. So basically ended that relationship. Unfortunately, my penis chose the next one.
It does.
The only thing I got out of there was 4 brilliant kids, but it was it was toxic relationship. It was terrible. And always, I was being told all the time, oh, please, man, you think you're funny, but you're not. Give me the money. I was going out working my bollocks off, bringing the money home, but having no respect for it. Respect. And I remember once, just before we got divorced, my ex-wife and I, who does squat, did squat, the whole family do nothing. So we were going to get divorced, and she said to me, your career's finished. And I said, well, what do you mean? She says, if it wasn't for me, you would be nothing. And I thought, wow. And that basically, sure, that destroyed me, because we had this beautiful 2 million rand house in flipping 1999, 2000. A house worth 2 million rands, nice big cars, everything like that, loads of loot, loads of everything. But that's how she thought of me. And the whole family said, you're rubbish. You're going to drown, pal. And I'll never forget, her mother actually said to me, can't wait, because you will be working for this family for the rest of your life. So, yes, that's a tough thing to deal with, you know. But anyway, got through it, did the shit, took my kids. I got custody of my children, because they were with her for a month, and they came knocking at my door, and they said, no, I can't do this shit. And funny enough, I want to tell you a true story. I spoke to my son last night, who suffers from depression as well. And it came out in the wash how his mother and his granny would abuse him when they first got divorced. Not you know, abuse him by saying, you just like your father, you're an idiot, crap, you're rubbish.
Well, it's mental abuse, isn't it? It's
and
emotional abuse.
Also physical abuse. They used to hit him. Every time he mentioned my name, they would physically hit him. So he's troubling. And funny enough, yesterday I spent a good half an hour talking to him and saying, dude, it's okay. You're allowed to make cock-ups. You're allowed to do this. You're allowed to be that. And the most important thing in your whole life, you must remember, this is who you are. This is how you're made. This is your DNA. This is it. So don't let depression get you. But it almost got me, friend. I had suicidal thoughts and all that shit. And it's funny how depression, some of the biggest guys, look at that guy, brilliant football player, Gary Speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Went home, everything was hunky-dory, went home and hung himself. So go figure that one out.
Yeah,
so,
that's yeah.
I actually realized what actually happens there. And it's the same as a lot of comics artists. They end up alkies, drug addicts, and all that stuff. You're on this high, and everybody and their dog wants to be your friend. And then all of a sudden, I'm talking about the art side, all of a sudden, somebody who's in the position of a power decides you're not good enough anymore, and then they just drop you like a stone, okay? And that's what happens. So you're from there, it takes one person, from there to there. If I can, the amount of British people that have said to me when they see me work, my God, you should be on this television show and that television show and that television show. Why aren't you on it? And my answer now is, well, the right person hasn't seen me yet. And that's what it boils down. There's so many brilliant comedians, but there's an abundance of crap comedians, you know, as you know.
Yeah, I mention any.
So I I used to get depressed even when I used to go to England, and British people, back all the years, British people would say to me, "Chish, you are so funny. And that, why aren't you on television?" And that used to really get to me, you know.
Of course.
Instead of being elevated, I was down. And then, but once again, COVID actually made me realize, do I really need to be on the English television? If I come there now and somebody says, "Oh, would you like to go on the Apollo?" I'll go, "Yeah," because I'm past that thing. So COVID did me well. And also the fact that my stint in the nut house also opened up a whole new life for me. It's the weirdest thing. I was screaming at my wife Sandy, screaming at her in a restaurant, because everything, you've been depressed, so everything just goes down into this ever closing in tube, and it's just darkness, and there's nothing positive about that. And in the middle of this screaming, I actually said to her, "Take me to the doctor now." So she took me to the doctor, and that evening I was in the nut house. So the funny thing about it was that we go there and they said, "Look, you've got to stay here for 14 days. And I said, "I can't. I've got work to do and things like that." And they said, "Look, pal, you're in here now, and you can put yourself out anytime you want. So, but if you want to get better, this is the deal." So what I did, I don't know if you've been to a clinic. No. Okay. So they give you all these games and they give you these things to do and all of that stuff and whatever. And every time they would say, like, "Who wants to do this?" "Me." "Who wants to lead this?" "Me." "Who wants to do that?" "Me." Because I'd gone, call it the nut house, I don't care what anybody says. I'd gone there, and when I was there, I thought, shit, man, this is not for me. I've got to utilize the facilities they have here to help me on my road to recovery. And I did. And I was out in 8 days. I still spoke to a therapist for, 2 years, Ella? 3 years. 3 years, regular to a therapist. And last month I had a bit of a bad thing, and I phoned her and she chatted to me and all, and she's brilliant. So if there's anybody wants to listen to this or whatever, I'm just telling you from me, you know, there's no shame. There's no shame in being depressed.
Thank you, Barry. It's nice to hear you say it, because that's a huge part of the
well,
problem.
It's no worse than having cholesterol or blood pressure or lung problems or this. We human beings, so our brains are not perfect.
No.
So, but the stigma that goes with it is like really bad, and it needs to change. It needs to change that everybody. Well, have you noticed this year or whatever, a lot of big sportsmen actually say, "I'm taking time off because my mental health is not like it." So it's becoming open.
Yeah, in sport, it definitely is, and that's awesome. In rugby, obviously, Gareth Alfie Thomas, Welsh rugby player, he sort of, I think probably about 10 years ago now, he started talking about it. Nigel Owens, the referee, so it's great that it's happening in sport. Music, unfortunately, even again, metal music is one place we're trying to plant the seed, and it's great for lyrical content, but that's sort of where it ends, unfortunately.
Yeah, but the point is, your lyrics are sort of on a downward spiral.
It can be.
Life, this thing, da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know, I think the fact that I do comedy and I write and I have fun and I laugh at the most stupid things or whatever, that has helped me tremendously. You know, I got to a stage where I would go to work and I would actually hate it. I was on stage, I'm thinking, what am I doing this shit for? Because nobody respects me. So you'd start resenting people that are actually your fans, you know, and other comics, other younger comics would come up to me. And the guys won't understand there, but in South Africa, it's Uncle Baz, you know, that's what they call me, Uncle Baz. And I would take it, they're just trying to be nice to me, but secretly they hate me, you know, and that made me even more depressive and more depressive. So when I came out of the nut house, I decided to help young comedians who wanted help. Not, you know, I've gone through about 8 or 9, of which 3 are going to make it as comics, because the other ones are too arrogant for their own flippant self. You know,
okay.
So, and we've all been there. If you're a muso, I've been there. I made a cock up a few times because I've been too arrogant. But when I help young comics and they come to my show, and the deal is this: they say, "Uncle Baz, can I please come and open for you?" I've realized now it's because they want to. It's a feather in their cap. But I opened for Barry Hilton. Do you know what I'm saying? Back in the days, I used to think, yeah, they're just doing it to use me. But now what they're doing it, they're saying, well, it's not using me. They're saying, well, I'm good enough to work with Barry Hilton, so they book me. Okay? So that actually gives you great pleasure when you can actually get it. And the guys, so now when they say to me, Uncle Baz, how's it? I realize that it's total respect I'm getting. Not like you used to think it was cynical, right? So and you know, and Sandy, my beautiful wife Sandy, points out to me, do you honestly think you would be earning top dollar still after 39 years if you were shit? The answer is no. Yeah. But when you're stuck in depression, I'm sure you've been there. When you're stuck in depression, as good as you are, as good as everything is, you just feel a self-loathing. I'm not good enough. Why am I doing this shit?
But you know, you've reminded me of a fantastic point. You know, two things COVID has really taught me. Again, the silver lining, and what sort of ties into your early life, really. I've decided this year who I want to spend more time with and who I don't want to spend as much time with. That it's so important to have a positive circle around you. And if you
do not spend time with idiots.
Do not spend time with idiots. And because I've done that now, even though I know there's a big bad world out there and there's things I don't like, I'm aware of it. I'm not ignoring it, but for my own survival, I have to almost like push it away. Otherwise, I am going to implode. So that's obviously one major part I can see was a major part of your early onset of depression was because you were being made to feel so worthless by the people that were supposed to love you or the people that were closest to you. You were in that circle. So it just reinforces the importance of how important that is to have a really supportive circle around you, doesn't it?
Well, my supportive circle consists primarily of my wife Sandy. Okay, she's it. She is my backstop. People say to me, "Can you do a gig?" I say, "Phone Sandy," because what Sandy's done is taken all of the pressure off me. Yes, I got to work and earn money, but I love it, you know. But all of the shit that I used to endure, I've realized Sandy's been helping me for years. But even when you're depressed, nothing. But she fields the calls. She makes sure my traveling's right. She makes sure I go here, go there. Somebody asked her just in a half a joke the other day, "Do you not think you're working, Barry, too hard?" And Sandy said to her, "I protect Barry more than anybody else on this planet." And when you look at it, it's true. My other relationship, it was protect themselves, don't give a shit about me. But yeah, so we work well. You've spoken to Sandy, you know, so we work really cool. Sandy takes all of that shit off my hand. And once again, if there's people out there, don't do this crap by yourself, dude. Get somebody to help you, because there's no shame. Just say, "Listen, I'm having a hard time here, John. Please help me." So,
absolutely. Thanks for that, Barry. Talking about Sandy, through Sandy, I actually learned a little something about you this week, which I didn't know about you last week. So don't worry, it's quite tame, nothing too serious. But I learned, I never knew until inspecting on your, clarifying on your Wikipedia page that you actually did spend most of your primary school years actually in North Wales, which I had no idea about. Colwyn Bay and Rhyl, around that neck of the woods.
Colwyn Bay next to Rhyl. Yeah, I went to St. Joseph's Junior School in Colwyn Bay, and then I went to Blessed Edward Ted's school in Rhyl.
Rhyl. And I noticed that that latter school in Rhyl, it's now recently changed its name to Christ the Word or Christ is the word, and all I can think about is the opening title for the musical Grease. Christ is the word. Yes. That's all I can think about when I think about that school.
It's a Catholic school, isn't it?
Yeah, that is right.
That was a hectic thing. Catholic schools were like strange.
So obviously you wouldn't have been surrounded by Welsh as in the language in the school because it would have been still is primarily through English. But did you have much of a recollection just in your time in that neck of the woods, hearing it around you, and do you still remember some?
Yes, that's where I learned to swim. That's where I learned to do that stuff. That's why I did stuff. That's why I went to high school. I went to Blessed Edward Ted's, and I remember, funny enough, I was thinking about yesterday, the first day I was in school, they were bullying some other guy, the locals there. And I said, why don't you leave him alone? And then they came to bully me. It was a guy called William Skeffington. He's a great guy. He made me laugh. He was like one of the bully type oaks. It turned out they just didn't like this one guy, and they all just to bully him. So they wanted to fight with me, but I said something without thinking. I don't even remember what I said now. And they stopped and laughed. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't the victim anymore. I refused to join them to bully other people, but they just didn't bully me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, here's a thing I told you. I used to swim, and I swam for North Wales. That was the thing. And I remember going to school the one time and telling the teacher, sir, I swam for North Wales last weekend. And he just said, I don't care. And it was just like, wow.
Back it out.
How can you deflate a child like that?
With such excitement.
Yes, I'm so excited. But you see, a lot of people are responsible for other people's depression because they're too busy trying to live their own life. They're not interested in listening and helping people. I don't know. I find myself very lucky. I've got through it, and I wouldn't say I'm cured. I think depression is something that stays with you forever. It's just the way it is. Now, I find my triggers. And I found the release of the trigger. So this morning, I was a little bit uptight and I said to Sandy, I went out on my bicycle and I rode like 25 Ks, and then you come back after the bicycle ride. I don't like riding a bicycle, don't like it. But when I come back after 25 Ks, I'm going like, wow, that was pretty cool. And you feel better, So that's a way to deal. So once again, actually, if you're depressed, do not sit down in front of the television or the PlayStation with a big slab of chocolates, because that'll just exacerbate. Was it
exacerbate? Yeah.
It'll exacerbate the whole vibe. If you're depressed, talk to somebody, even if it's your dog. Talk to them, and then get out there and do something. Do something, because you'll be surprised. Well, I found out. When I'm feeling shit and I go on my bike, I don't enjoy it. I can tell you that now. I don't enjoy my bicycle. But once I've done I'm going to do 30 Ks today, and I come back, I've done it. It's like a sense of achievement, and you go like, hey, well done, bro. So the depression is gone because you've done something else to stimulate.
Especially where you live, I can't remember what the cycling routes are like, but you obviously got an amazing smaller routes around you, lovely views. You obviously got the sea, you got the mountains in the back, really stunning.
Yes, lovely. But people are putting other people down all the time. Okay, I could actually qualify for pension, all right, but so I buy this bike. I'm trying to keep up with my son, so I thought I'll buy an e-bike. Okay, but not one of those little Chinese crap things. I bought a giant e-bike that you have to pedal, and it works on the cadence, and it works on this and your pressure and all that. And immediately you come by, and a cyclist, he says, "Oh, but please, e-bike, that's cheating. And I'm thinking, what the hell's it got to do with you?
Yeah.
Cheating for who, bro?
Yeah.
Cheating
Who are you cheating?
For who? Who are you cheating? My stock answer is, I say to them, tell me, what frame have you got on your bike? And they go like, this is a carbon fiber frame. And I say, why? Well, it's lighter. I said, well, that's cheating. So I answer them, that's cheating. And they say, well, it's not cheating. I said, of course it is. Why don't you get a flippin' old bicycle that weighs 20 Ks? And then that's not cheating. We'll all put, yeah. So now I just brush them off. Yeah, right, next. Have a nice day.
But it makes it accessible, doesn't it? It makes something accessible to other people to be able to do an activity. And what's the harm in that?
It was quite windy this morning. Okay. So I got on the bike. I rode against the wind the first half. And I had to use my pedal assist more. And when I turned round, I came home in top gear the whole way, up a few hills down, and I never stopped. So what's cheating about that? Nothing. I got out and I went and did it.
I don't want to open a can of worms or anything, but as we're on the topic of people
we don't eat those in South Africa. Okay.
But on the topic of people bringing each other down sometimes, keeping it sort of Facebook post related for a moment, not that I've been stalking your page, but just something that grabbed my attention. You made, maybe a couple of weeks ago, you made a specific reference to an Oscar moment, I think so. I think that's what you're subtly trying to do. It was refreshing reading your thoughts coming from the middle of this argument about not really trying to make jokes at the direct expense of somebody else, and to make sure that your jokes don't verge into bullying. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, because some people say comedy is dead, but humor is like culture. It's not fixed and it changes over time, doesn't it? So I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
There seems to be a thing now, the more outrageous you can be as a comedian, people accept, oh, well, that's the way he does things, and you accept that. That's fine, okay? For me, how can I mock somebody who's got, I don't know, motor neuron disease or this or that? Or how can you mock somebody like that? That is like not human. And here's a story. A friend of ours died 2 years ago now from motor neuron disease. Okay. And for about 4 years, he was just sitting there, couldn't do anything. And it got so bad, he had to communicate through one of those digital things. So I went to go see him, and I'm sitting there chatting to him, and I said, look, Stuart, I've got to go. And he wrote on the screen, and then it said the words, did you enjoy yourself? All right. And I said to him, seriously? You've done nothing but look at that flipping screen since I got here. So he actually laughed so much, I had to get his helper to sort of put his head up. But now you see, that is not mocking somebody with the disabled. I'm sure, and he accepted that's what it is, and we had a laugh about it, Yeah. And he looks, well, he always used to, his wife would phone up and say, can you come and visit? Yeah, okay, I'll do that. It's because you're supposed to do that in life. You're supposed to help people. I don't care what anybody says. I hate people that, hate is a strong word, but I totally dislike people that go out of their way to belittle other people. I can't deal with it. Why do you want to do that, Why do you want to do it? You get megalomaniacs like that idiot in Russia now that just wants to control the whole world and threatens the world. If you don't buy my oil, I'm going to nuke you. What a dick, What a dick. So, and people, but you get people like that in every day. Have you noticed that? You meet people like that every day who are envious of what you do, and then instead of saying, shit, can you help me get there? They say, you crap, man, you rubbish. Because what they're saying is, in real terms, is, shit, I wish I could do what you could do, but instead I'll just make you try and make you feel bad.
Because it makes them feel better.
Yes. And those are the type of people who will gladly mock people that are having a hard time. My mother had polio, okay? And I must have been 12. We were sitting in a beer garden in Colwyn Bay, just before we left to come back to South Africa. It was 30, yeah, it was about 6 months before we left. And my mother had polio and she wore a caliper and it was very difficult for her to walk, all right? So this guy was pissed and said to my dad out loud, "Yo, Jack, why would you marry a cripple?" Can you believe that shit? And my dad looked at this guy and said, "I don't like walking fast." And that was that little moment I thought, shit, my dad's the greatest psychic in the world, because he basically, you know what one of these is, eh? He gave the guy one of those. He said, "Up yours, pal, you're a deuce." And he protected my mom at the same time with that one little thing. Why would you marry a cripple? I don't like walking fast. So that's funny. So obviously, maybe because my mum was like that, you realize, but shit, my mother's disability was nothing compared to people out there that are having the worst time. So what type of flippant comedian would go and do that? I just can't put it together, you know. I don't know, it's wrong.
Maybe that's why. No, yeah, absolutely no. But maybe that's why in the UK you're very refreshing, is because it is very much observational and accessible, yes. And that's why I'm mainly a fan of comedians who sort of have your style, or like there's a Canadian comedian called Russell Peters, who I used to be a big fan of years ago. It's that sort of, it's not necessarily mocking, never mocks anyone, but it's enjoying the differennes and just about cultural differences.
He works massively on the fact that he's Indian.
Yeah.
He's actually a nice guy. I know him, actually. I actually know him. So lovely. He's a nice guy. But some guys, I just don't understand why people would mock. Like for instance, I'll go to a show now that people haven't seen me, and they will say, "Oh man, they gave me seats in the front. Please don't say anything." And I say to them, "But I don't." Mm-hmm. And then they go like, no, all comedians do it. So, no, I don't. And then after the show, I'll go to them and say, "What's that?" They say, "Wow, that's so good." I communicate with people rather than abuse them.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a laugh, man. I love my job. I never sit in the green screen, in the green screen. I never sit in the green room if I can help it. I don't like it. Yeah. I like sitting, talking to people, and then getting on the bar. Yeah, I like it. I talk to the people, have a chat, get on. Often I've gone to a place, especially in the UK or whatever, I've been working, and there's like, you know, the UK, the pubs have all these different rooms and all that stuff. So, in fact, the last time I was there, I was in this place, and there was like the little pub, and at the back they had this little, was about 100-seater venue. And I was at the pub talking to this guy. He was having a beer, and I was like having a cold drink, and he said, "Why don't you have a beer?" And I said, "Actually, I'm working," and "Oh, okay, no problem, Lovely guy. And then I go do my show. He's sitting in the front row, this guy. And I walked on stage. I said, "Hello." And he said to me, "Bloody hell, you're the guy from the pub." And I said, "Yeah, what's the problem?" And afterwards he spoke to me. He said, "You know how refreshing that is, because you didn't say who you are, what you do, how you do it. You just had a chat to me. We were talking about football or something like that. So it had nothing to do with comedy, but he'd been bought a ticket by somebody else. So how's that?" So that made me feel really cool, because you don't have to say, "Check at me, and I'm going to mock you." No, that's God. Looking at myself,
That's very humble of you, Barry. And it's again,
no, carry on.
No, it's okay. Now, listen, I've been it's been great to hear your reinforced advice, really, of what you're saying to everyone. Don't feel shit. There's nothing wrong with your DNA. This is what you dealt with. it's okay. It's absolutely fine. And I'm a big fan of the idea, maybe not necessarily fitness, but being outside is really, really important. And again, don't reach for that chocolate bar. Don't sit in front of the TV, because all you're going to do is think, and it's gonna manifest itself. So go outside, go for a quick walk, listen to some music.
Absolutely. You know, my little boy started playing football, Jack, out of the blue. He's a surfer. Okay? Cool. He's a full-on surfer. So last September, he said to his mom, "Can I play football to the to the heathens out there?" So we said, yeah. So he goes to play soccer, and he says, "I want to be goalkeeper." Okay, so he's goalkeeper. So anyway, he's doing pretty good, you know. So the coach in our little small town says to us, "Look, you know, Jack needs to go play for a proper club because he's pretty good." I didn't know. So we take him there. And like he said to me, because they saw him work, and then we signed him up, and the coach said, "Can you come on Saturday, because you'll get a game?" And Jack said to me, "Why did the coach give me a chance to play? Is it because he feels sorry for me?" And I said, "No, it's because he sees potential in you. So now it's on you." But I'm not pressurizing. I'm saying, so if you want to go there, it's on you, dude. And that's what life is about.
Yeah.
I can't go on the pitch and play soccer or football for Jack. He's the guy that's got to do it. So people out there who are suffering with this depression, the only person that can actually make you better is yourself. You can get help. Your dad or you know what I'm saying? You can get a person that'll talk to you, do that, but that person can't help you. Only you can help you. So there's like so I think the first thing about, if you're depressed, get a grip on yourself and sort of analyze all the good stuff that you can do. And believe me, it'll outweigh the bad stuff by 20-1. So there we go.
So you're obviously experienced now in this department, and again, you're never too old to learn about yourself, about your triggers. What's your sort of advice really for people to keep themselves happy and on the straight and narrow? What do you do either daily or weekly to keep yourself as healthy as you can be, Barry?
Exercise is a very good thing, because besides exercising your body, you're actually giving your brain a gap. Okay, and exercise brings good results, so therefore you can pat yourself on the back. Look what I've done this. I'm saying depression is there. It's like it's a human defect, and believe me, if you really went round there and asked 10 of your mates if they were honest with you, I would say at least 3 of them will say, "Shit, you know, I have those feelings." So I'm saying you should get out there and share and talk to people and be happy to talk. And if somebody's having a hard time, you can actually look and think, "Shit, I'm having a hard time, but this oak, he's having the worst time ever." So help that person, because it'll in turn help you to get better, because you're sharing the load, you know? I think so.
Absolutely. Barry, thank you so much. So in June, if you happen to be either in the Glee Club again or near the town of Barry in Cardiff, then you're absolutely welcome to come over to my house for braai, because I've got a shed full of braai wood that needs using. And just so I can say the sentence to you out loud, nhw'n ons braai.
There we go. Thanks, mate.
Minus the 12 bottles of brandy.
Yeah, and braai at 11:30.
Yeah, to never ask a burkie for a braai. Well, one of my favorite sketches, and I think that's the first one I saw of you, which I'm still a big fan of. Again, thank you so much for your insight today. So great to hear about your honesty. As we say in METALIDADS, whether it's whammy bars or weaning, napalm death or nappies, it's always good to talk. So thanks for talking to us today. And it's been an absolute honor. And I'm particularly looking forward to seeing you on your UK tour again with your Welsh dates in June. So I'll post them to our members and on our YouTube channel when it goes up.
And tell them that they will understand me. Okay.
I know they will. I'm sure they've understood everything now. Barry, lekker. Mwy lwc.
Brilliant. Thank you. Take care. Cheers.